Welcome to Beginning to Blend, a new Blender-centric video series focusing on two methods of modeling in Blender. I'm your host and guide, JoRaSe, and I hope you'll stick around for the duration of these videos. Alright, now last time we did the vase models, and this time let's work on something to actually put in that vase. So we're looking at a flower here. This is the reference image for it, and like the vase, it is going to be composed entirely of cylinders. And let's go ahead and switch out of the preview and go into our Blender program. Come all the way over here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to start display for the screencast keys. Once again, so all of you can see what I'm doing right over here in the corner as far as the mouse and keyboard goes. And let's get a few things, a few options checked. We want backface culling to be active, and we can hide that and this. Now let's bring in our background images, or background image. And let's go ahead and get an orthographic view by hitting the 5 key on the keypad, on the numpad I mean, and then the 3 key. And that pulls us in with our background image. Now let's ramp the opacity up right here all the way to 1. To do that, we just click and drag to the right. Now we can delete the default cube because we're wanting to work with cylinders. And like last time, we want to take it from 32 down to 12. So we're just going to left click in the vertices box and type in 12 and then hit enter. And down here where it says cap fill type, we want nothing because we're going to do it the way that's best for this type of model. So now we can tab in, and let's go ahead and holding down the Shift key and the Alt key at the same time, and then right-clicking on this edge loop, we select it all. Now we hit the E key on the keyboard to extrude, give it one left click to lock it in place, the W key on the keyboard, and we want to merge these vertices at the center. And then we're going to do the same on the bottom. So Shift Alt and right click, the E key to extrude and lock it in place. And now W, bring up the specials menu. We want to merge these at the center. And there we go. We now have our starting cylinder. So let's begin. Grab the entire cylinder. And what we're going to do, since this is going to be made up of multiple cylinders, to keep from having to go through all that process again, let's just move this over to the side out of the way and duplicate it with the Shift and D key. Then lock it in place with Enter and grab it and slide the duplicate over. Now let's rotate it on the y-axis by 90 degrees. So that's going to be the R key, the Y key to lock the rotation to the y-axis, and then just type in 90. And there we have what we need. So this will, we need to hit the Z key to go into wireframe so we can see the background image behind what we're working with. So let's drag this up all the way to the middle. And this will be our center little portion. So let's scale it down. And if we go into shaded mode again, that looks a bit flat to me. So what I'm going to do, and you might want to do it as well, is throw in a couple of loop cuts this way. 2 should be enough. And we're going to grab this first one and scale it in a bit. Doesn't have to be too much. And then we want to slide it back. And we're going to do the same with this, but instead of just grabbing the edge loop, which would leave this one out, the easier way is just to hit the B key, hold it down the left mouse button and drag, and of course being sure you don't grab another vertice by mistake. And now scale this in. And I think that gives a much better center point for our flower. So now let's go back into wireframe and object mode. Or I was in object mode, go back into edit mode. That's what I meant to say. Alright, so now we're going to make another duplicate of our original cylinder using the Shift and D key, and then lock it in place with Enter. We want to rotate it on the y-axis again by 90 degrees. And let's go ahead and pull it over to this one. And we're going to scale it on the Y a little bit, like so. And then down on the Z-axis. So to scale it, it's just like rotating. You hit the S key instead of the R key, and then whichever axis you're scaling it on to lock it in place to that axis. So for this, we're going to be scaling it in on the Z-axis. So we hit the Z key, and now we just drag our mouse in to scale it down. So it looks like this. And while it may look all right from this angle, if we turn it, we see it looks like a mess because it's too big. So we're going to hit the S key and the X key to lock it on the X-axis, and we're going to scale it in this way. A little bit narrower than the previous part, because what we're going to do with this is drag it over on the X-axis, like so. And now that we have one flower petal, we can duplicate it with the Shift and D key, lock it in place with Enter, and drag it over to the other side, like so. Now we want to grab all of these vertices for the other petal that we made previously. And if we zoom in using the scroll wheel, we can get this last one. just like so. Now we want to duplicate it, Shift and D, lock it in place with Enter, press the R key because we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. So now we've got our first 4 petals. Now we're going to select these again. Zoom in where you can get that last one. Now we're going to do the same here. Just grab that one first and then zoom out. Grab the rest of them. Now we're going to duplicate these. Shift and D. Hit the R key. And this time we're going to use the mouse or the cursor. And just by dragging the mouse, we can get a rough positioning, which is going to be good enough for our purposes today. So there we have our startup flower. Now, let's go in and fix a little something that needs fixing. And to do that, what we're going to need to do is add in another loop cut right here. Bring it all the way up. And what we're going to do is scale this out. But before we do it to this one, we've got another one that we need to add in, because it needs to come out to the same measurement or same scale, and it needs to be at the very back. So once we get all of them, we're going to grab it and scale it up. To where the petals no longer look like they're just cylinders stuck on there. Our scaling has caused a bit of a problem on the x-axis though, but that's easy to fix. If we go into the side view here, go into wireframe with the Z key, zoom down, and using the scale feature and lock it to the x-axis, drag the mouse to where it lines up just like it should. And by just like it should, I mean like this. And one may or may not work out properly. The way to fix that is to grab all of these vertices, hit the S key, the X key, and the 0 key, and that will scale it all down to a factor of 0, meaning everything is in a straight line. So there we have our flower startup. Another thing that we can do is by selecting this edge loop with Shift Alt and a right click, we can then scale this out a bit. And then let's do the same with this one. So that looks bigger and a bit better. All right, now the next thing we need to work with is the stem. So for that, we're going to take our basic cylinder that we made, make one more duplicate, and drag it down about to here. Now, the easy way to do this is to scale it up on the z-axis, and I'm going to go by a factor of 5, and then we're going to scale the entire thing down to where it's a real thin cylinder like so. Now let's scale it up on the z-axis by 5 again, and scale it once more all the way on all axes to where we get it to match up with the black line, which is the stem for our flower. Now that we've got this, we can scale it up on the z-axis. That will give us enough size on the z-axis for the next part. And just get it where it kind of overlaps the top up here. So I'm going to do it about like this. Now let's make sure it's not embedded in our model so far. So let's pull it out on the Z, pull it out on the X, go into shaded view. And what we're wanting to do now is add in a few edge loops. And I'm going to go with 4. The first one down here lines up properly if we go into wireframe. You can see the first edge loop is right there, right where we want it. Just shift it over a little bit if there's a need for it. Grab this one and shift it over a little bit as well. Now comes the bit right here. It needs to come in right there. Next one, bring it down to about there. And this one, just make it straightened up. Zoom in and grab this last one. And we're just going to straighten it up as well. Now let's go into the side view. And we're going to add in about 3 more loop cuts. Now we're going to grab this top vertice set and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees and pull it forward on the x-axis. Grab this one and slide it up and rotate it a little bit. And what we're doing here is helping to make the stem have a joining place with the flower. So get all this laid in, and then we drag it over like so. And let's rotate this a little bit more. And this, rotate it a little bit. Now we're going to drag these down. And down. So we get something that looks like this when we look at it from other angles. Now we can take the entire cylinder here and just slide it back on the x-axis, like so, to where it overlaps a little bit with that back face. But it needs to be lined up properly with the actual center point here, needs to line up with center point here. So that's what we're going to do now. Just drag it, hit the G key to move, and drag it down. Go into shaded view, and there we have our stem. All right, now just to get the leaf down here. Oh, and if you're kind of concerned about what looks like the inner portions of this showing up, we can fix that just by grabbing all of the edge loops here. And then box select all of the inner vertices. And we can go into side view and just drag them back in a little bit further on the x-axis. Go back into front view and we can see that it no longer shows like it was. All right, with that out of the way, this is the final use for this, so we're just going to use it. Let's rotate it on the Y by 90 degrees. And slide it over. Zoom in. And scale it down a little bit. And now we're going to just do the positioning of these vertice sets manually. So let's grab a vertice set and pull it into place. Grab another vertice set, slide it into place, and just keep going. Till all the vertice sets are lined up with the background image as best as possible. So there we have our leaf, and yet again we need to scale it down on the x-axis, or on the x-axis. So the S key, the X key, and then just scale it down. Might have to do it again if you, like me, started out too close to it. Get it down to a leaf size. And now leaves don't usually have a center point, they usually have a vein. So what we're going to do is delete these two center vertices. And what we're going to do is grab this vertice. Oh, actually, we need to add in a loop cut. I was getting ahead of myself there. We'll put it in right here. And let's just straighten this out like so. Now we're going to grab the top two here. As soon as I can grab them, there we go. And do the same to the top two up here. And hit the F key on the keyboard to put the face in. And now we're just going to follow along, putting in the other faces. Two vertices on that side, and two on this side. And there we go. Now to do the bottom, just selecting vertices and hitting the F key to put the face in where we have the vertices selected. There we go. Now we're going to go flip it over and do it on the other side as well. But we don't have to start in the middle this time since we have an outline to go by. Nearly finished. Just one more face to put in. There we go. And now the good thing about doing the leaf this way is we can actually give it a bit of a bend. So if we grab all of those, we can push it in on the x-axis a little bit. Like so. It gives it a little bend on those. If we go into wireframe, we can deselect these two vertices here and these two here, and slide it over again on the x-axis, like so. And that gives us a nicely curved leaf. So now that we have our leaf, we want to select all of it, go into the side view, and get it matched up to the stem. And let's turn it a bit on the y-axis. We want to make sure it's the one that this particular portion of the model is assigned to. So we hit the R key, and then we can hit the Y key. Once is for global, twice is for local, but we need the x-axis, I believe. No? Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm thinking wrong. It's because it's all one model, what I'm trying to do won't work. I will get out of the actual file here in a moment. Alright, that looks okay to me. Now, if we're working with the entire model, we want to rotate on the global for any axis that's just hitting the R key and rotating. However, if we want to rotate on the local axis, let's say we want to rotate it on the local Y axis, we would hit Y twice. And that doesn't do anything because the entire thing is correct on the Y axis. Let's see if we have a different local X. No. Different local Z? No? Okay. Well, this is not going to be a good model to showcase that, but wonderful thing, we have finished the flower. That's all for this session of Polygonal Art with JoRaSe. If you enjoyed what you saw, how about giving this video a thumbs up? And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future videos from me. In the video description below, you'll find my Patreon link. Feel free to check it out. Now, on to the credits.